for a couple of audience participation questions. I have two questions for you. The first one is that we just had the 2018 midterm election, and I want you to raise your hand high if you voted in that election. Wow, a lot of people in this room. Impressive. Unfortunately, only about half of eligible voters participated in the election. Even though it was a historic year, the highest midterm turnout we've had in 50 years, still only half. Okay, the next question is more fun. I want you to raise your hand high if you've been to a party this year. Oh, everyone has been to a party this year. For the last 3 years, I've been working on a project that has combined these two things, voting and parties. The project is called Vote Together, and it asks a simple question. If we treated Election Day as a fun, celebratory, participatory community event, if we treated Election Day the same way that we treat the 4th of July, would more people go vote? And the answer, after throwing thousands of parties, there are worse jobs than mine, and working to do a rigorous evaluation of those parties with Professor Donald Green from Columbia University, who is the preeminent civic engagement researcher. The answer is resoundingly yes. Every single one of us in this room, watching online, every person in this country can help increase voter participation by throwing a voting celebration. Much of the current voting system as we know it today, that feeling where you walk into the polls alone, it's private, it's individual, it is not fun at all. That system was developed by a set of laws passed in the late 1800s. The laws were a part of racist voter suppression laws that were specifically designed to do two things: legally, ban people from voting, and culturally, to create an election process that people wouldn't even want to participate in if they could go vote. These laws came after the highest turnout that we've ever had in the mid-1800s. Now, it is important to say that very few people had the right to vote at the time. But the people who ran the elections, the ones who were in charge of turning those people who could vote out, they knew how to throw parties. There was a time where you would bring your own paper to the polls. When you arrived, there was a lot of alcohol, the true bedrock of democracy, drinking, and rigorous debate. Turnout was well over 80%. But then, when the legal institution of slavery ended, and African Americans started getting elected to office, and we were on the precipice of real hope, they could have made laws that invited everyone to the party. And instead, they canceled it. The paper ballot, as we know it today, was specifically designed to pave the way for a literacy test. The literacy test was joined by the poll tax and by residency requirements that made it harder, if not illegal or impossible, to vote. Today's version of those laws look like the voter ID requirements. They look like being kicked off the rolls because you missed an election or two. And unfortunately, they work. Turnout is low. But while there are people working to suppress the vote, there are also people working to increase voter turnout. There are states where you can register and vote on the same day. Because why is it a two-step process? There are states where you can vote early, by mail, or in person. And in some of those states where you can vote early in person, you can even do it on a weekend. Because Election Day is on a Tuesday, and you already know what I'm going to say, a lot of people work on Tuesdays. So while we must continue to fight voter suppression laws and to pass more laws that bring new people into the process. The third leg of that stool is to make sure that when people go vote, they have a meaningful, powerful, community-driven experience, that they leave the polls feeling like they had a good time and that they are empowered and that they want to go back and vote in the next election. Through the testing of our poll parties, we have found that you can increase turnout by 4 percentage points. Now you might say, 4, is that a lot? I want to walk through the numbers with you for a minute because it is staggering. So let's say you, an individual in the audience, you decide, okay, all right, Jen, fine, I'll do it. I'm going to throw a polling party. You find your polling location, you reserve the park right next door, you make a flyer, and you go door to door to all of your neighbors, inviting them to come. For people who are fired up about it, they say yes, you ask them to bring some food, so there's a potluck. You get someone who will do face painting for kids, someone who maybe will do balloon animals, and you definitely get a babysitter. When you throw your party, let's say you get 25 new people to go vote. People who probably meant to, who told you, oh yeah, I'll definitely be there, but then they forgot. But because of your party, they decided to come to support you, and then they went to vote. And so then you say to me, well, 4%, 25 new votes, 25 isn't that much. Well, let me tell you the power of 25 votes. We are in Virginia right now. In 2017, Virginia had the State House of Delegates election. One of those state house races tied. The winner of that race, whether Republican or Democrat, would control which party ran the entire state house. That's the power of 25 votes. So let's play it out a little bigger. Let's say that 10,000 people watch this TEDx and decide, okay, we're all going to throw these parties at our individual polling locations. 10,000 new parties times 25 new voters, 250,000 new votes. That was the margin of victory in well over half of the governor's races that we just held in the 2018 election. That is game-changing. The other thing that is really important to share about these parties is that a lot of them are held by voters. A lot of them are held by local organizations like your YMCA or your Urban League, but they can also be held by people who aren't voters, by young people who aren't yet 18, by people who aren't citizens, by people who have been disenfranchised and lost the right to vote. Everyone, and I mean everyone in this country, can participate in our democracy by throwing an election celebration. So hopefully at this point you're thinking, okay, fine, Jen, I'll throw a party. Just show me what to do, show me what it looks like. So I pulled some pictures, some of my favorite pictures from 2018 parties that we threw so that you could get a better sense of what they look like. This is a party where they turned a local playground into a voting party. This one was particularly great because a lot of people reported that they really didn't actually want to go vote, but their kids really wanted to go to the park and the party. And so they went. And then what are you going to do, not vote when your kid's right there watching you? So then they went to vote. My favorite game played at a party was life-size Connect Four. This party was particularly fun because, of course, elections are competitive, so it was, a competitive environment in the polls. But after, that's when the real competition started. Because a family-based Connect Four competition, that's way bigger than an election. The next thing that I will recommend to everyone throwing a party is free food. There's really nothing better than knowing that when you go to vote, when you're gonna leave and your friends and your family are gonna be there, you're gonna have a celebration and there's gonna be popcorn and cookies. Or better yet, my favorite picture of all of 2018, the real key to increasing voter turnout in this country, free hamburgers. Another option for a party is to throw them at your office. At my office, we threw a Halloween costume party and voting party. So people filled out their absentee ballots, we voted for our elected officials, and we voted for best costume. And because, obviously, we work in voting, the person who won dressed up as a ballot box for Halloween. This party is particularly important for people who live in states where a lot of people, or everyone, vote by mail. This picture took place at a party held in California, which was particularly important this year. In California, not only were all of the elected officials on the ballot, but they also had 11 statewide ballot initiatives. So you imagine you're sitting in your house and you're poring over the voter guides and you're trying to figure out, does yes mean no, and how am I supposed to vote? So this group came together and they talked about the issues. And they reported back to us two really important things. One is that they felt way more confident that they voted how they actually meant to vote because they had had a discussion with people that they knew about what was what and who was who. Second, people who had been their neighbors before, where it's like, oh, hey, how are you? I think, is your name Jen? Actually became their friends. And they were excited not just because they had voted, but because they had built a community of people who they were excited to talk to when they saw on the street. Another idea for a party is throwing them at a local business. I chose this picture because just who doesn't want coffee when you go to vote? But also because coffee shops have a loyal stream of customers who are coming in all day long. They come into the shop and they think, oh, Election day, I had forgotten, and then they go to vote. The most important thing is that you pick for your community the party that makes the most sense. This is a picture from a party hosted by Cecile and the League of Women Voters in Panama City, Florida. I chose this party to tell you about because Panama City was one of the cities that was ravaged by the hurricane that went through Florida just a few weeks before Election Day. And so we thought, no problem, don't throw the party, we totally understand, cleanup efforts are underway. And Cecile called and she said, oh no, we are throwing this party, but we lost all of our supplies in the storm. So we loaded up a U-Haul, drove 3 hours out to Panama City, and they threw their party. This community was not going to let anything stop them from voting. Across the country, at the University of Arizona, the local Hillel chapter, which is a Jewish student group, was trying to decide whether they still wanted to throw their party just a few days after the tragic Tree of Life synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh. The students came together and they decided that they weren't going to let anyone scare them from voting. And they were going to throw their party, and they were going to do it in honor of those who had lost their lives. They had 700 people attend their party. And so my closing ask to all of you is that in the next election, whether it is the 2019 local elections or the 2020 primaries, that you throw your own voting party. If you plan on throwing a birthday party or a Super Bowl party or a, oh my God, Netflix has released a new season, everyone come over to my house on Friday night to binge party, my ask is that you also throw a voting party. Because together, we can increase the number of people who are voting. Together, we can make sure that our voices are heard. And together, we can make this democracy stronger. Thank you. Let's go throw some parties. Thank you.